a little whisper said to me, have you thought that these speeches are an opportunity for you to use the platform that you've been given to speak power to others? You know, not just speeches. You have the power of the word and the power of the pen. And that is a very powerful thing. It is a gift that very few are given. And if you have been given that gift, then it's incumbent on you to use it, and to use it to empower, to use it to bring justice, to use it to right wrongs, to use it in a way that is like the sword of the spirit, you know?
So with that, welcome, Pam.
Thank you.
Introduce yourself to this audacious audience.
Yes. Okay, for those of you who don't know me, my name is Pamela Coke Hamilton. I am Jamaican by birth, but I haven't lived there actually for 30 years, which is surprising to a lot of people. But you know, it's funny how time flies. I didn't leave intending to not go back, but life has a way sometimes of taking you where you didn't think of or intend to be. You know how it is. So I'm Jamaican, but then I joined the Foreign Service when I grew up in Mandeville. I have 5 siblings, and they're my best friends, and that always helps, because that way, my mom used to say, you don't need to go to anybody else's house because you have 5 siblings, so go and play with them. Exactly. And the problem now is that, you know, it's very hard for us to make other friends. We have to make a concerted effort to make friends, because I already have a built-in set, you know? So, so you have to kind of, yes, you know, to step out there and force yourself. So I grew up in Mandeville, yeah, then I went to UWI, did my first degree there. I joined the Foreign Service, and then I was posted to Geneva 30 years ago. Stayed there for 3 years, then was posted to Washington, D.C. And while I was in D.C., I did law at Georgetown University Law School, and then I got married. And, you know, getting married changes a lot of things as well. So I left the Foreign Service, and I went to a law firm for 6 months. It was the greatest failure of my life.
I'm going to ask you why that is, Pam.
Well, you know, I knew that it wasn't a fit. As I told them when I was leaving, you know, the problem is I tend to have a socialist mindset, and this is a capitalist organization. And so the two of us, I always tell people, it's not so much whether you don't work at an organization or an organization is bad. Sometimes it's just a bad fit. And sometimes you need to know when it's a bad fit and move on. Yeah. And that's okay, you know? So I left and I went back to what my real love is, which is development, trade and development. So I went to the OAS as a trade advisor. Before that, I'd actually worked with the Caribbean Regional Negotiating Machinery with Sir Alistair and Sir Sridath Ramphal. And that was an awesome experience. I did that for almost 3 years when we were negotiating the free trade area of the Americas. And after OAS, I designed a Master's in International Trade Policy program, which I put at the University of the West Indies, which is another passion of mine, which is institution and capacity building, you know, helping people to actually be able to help themselves, rather than always flying people in to tell us what to do. We are bright enough to know it ourselves. So, yeah. So I did that at UWI for 3 years, and that was a wonderful experience as well. I went back to OAS as Director of Trade. Then I went to IDB, and IDB sent me back to Barbados, and from there I went to Caribbean Export Development Agency. Spent 8 wonderful years there, and then the UN called. And so, well, you know, that's a long story, but let's put it this way. Sometimes when you forget a dream you have, God remembers it.
Mhm.
And a lot of times we forget what we actually dream of until it happens and we realize, God didn't forget it. We just did.
Yeah.
And then I came to the UN
So by that time, you're saying that this was something you had on your bucket list. This is something you had on your wish list then.
actually, I wanted to work with the UN from I was 10 years old.
Wow.
It's the funniest thing. A friend of mine asked me earlier this year when we were talking about, what was it you always wanted to do? And I started thinking, and then it just struck me. I said, oh my goodness, I wanted to work with the UN.
What drew you there at 10 years?
At 10 years old, I grew up in a political family. And it's, when you grow up in a political family and, in our house, right? The pictures on the wall were grandpa over our bedroom door, right? Alexander Bustamante on another wall, Norman Manley on another wall. We couldn't escape. We didn't have a choice. No, Michael Manley and Edward Seagan. So we were surrounded by the political reality of our day. And our parents, every Sunday, we would discuss all kinds of world events from Vietnam and Pol Pot to, Das Kapital and whether communism versus capitalism was right or not, or, so we always had that constant engagement in world affairs. And I remember when I was, I was 10, and I remember it was 5th grade and I was in Miss Sangster's class. And I remember Miss Sangster was related to one of our first prime ministers in Jamaica as well. And we were talking about something to do with, what is it we wanted to do? And I told her, I think I want to work with the UN because I think that they can help the world, And that was, but I forgot, you know what I mean? You tend to, life takes you on various journeys and you have kids. I have one son, a wonderful boy named Matthew. I shouldn't say boy, a wonderful young man. He's about 20. In my head, he's still 2, but he's 20 and he's in university, and he's a blessing, an incredible blessing. So
in this forum, we talk about the resilience, the audacity, and the persistence that allow women to live their ideal lives, to live their dreams, and to persevere, really. What can you tell us, Pam, about your journey up through those ranks? I'm sure you came across many boundaries along the way that said, no, 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 you shall go no further. Yes. Nevertheless, you persisted. So tell us about that. Tell us a story about how that happened for you and what you did to, still go forward.
Yeah, well, all right, I think it's important to start, how can I put it? When I joined the Foreign Service, I remember somebody saying to me, you really have no ambition, because I remember my check, my first letter, it said you get $13,083 for the year. $13,083 for the year, right? That's your annual salary.
Yes.
So needless to say, I wasn't exactly going to be, going to sushi and taking people out. So luckily, Jackie, as usual, felt sorry for me, right? So I went, I tell you, it's a good thing to have the Foreign Service, because I would have been living in their basement still. And unhappily so. I was very content, So anyway, so I joined the Foreign Service because I believe in following your passion. I believe in following. One of the things my mom did very, very well, and I was thinking about it just this weekend too, and it's a gift I want to give my son, is that at no point did mommy ever tell any of us what we should be. Never. She just said, get your education, study hard, do your very best. But at no point did she ever say, be a doctor, be a lawyer, she never, ever. And so we always had the freedom to pursue whatever our interests were, wherever our inner dream took us. And she was always supportive and always just you know, do your thing, and whatever you're given to do, do it well. So when I joined the Foreign Service, I will say this to people, it was one of the most incredible experiences for somebody at such a young age. And I tell people, joining the service is one of the greatest levels of exposure you will get at such a young age, because we have small services and therefore we get exposure much more than in larger countries in an odd way. So I remember, I'll tell you lessons I learned along the way so you'll understand what formed the way I see the world. I remember my very first year there, I was put on the Law of the Sea desk. And on top, in addition to Law of the Sea, I was given Israel and Palestine and Chernobyl. Now, needless to say, I was not particularly excited. I mean, seriously, Chernobyl, Israel and Palestine, them always warring, what's the point? And then Law of the Sea, where, you know. But anyway, so I remember the first Law of the Sea conference I went to, it was downtown Kingston, as you know. So I went down there and I remember meeting a gentleman who was from the Ghanaian mission in New York. And at that time, the New York diplomats would come down. And he was asking me, you know, how is it going as, you know, a young officer in first year? And I was just saying, you know, this is awful. I hate it. I just don't want to do this. This is boring.
Get out of it.
Yes, this is boring. This is not what I envisioned for my grand, you know, Foreign Service career. And this is just, and he said to me, you know what, I'm going to give you some advice. And he said, whatever it is that you are given to do, you become the resident expert at it. Doesn't matter what it is. You become the resident expert so that when anything comes up on that issue, you are the go-to person. And I thought, I've never forgotten that. And this was more than 30 years ago. His name was Gussie. And I remember him because he looked like this guy who used to be on TV, Carol Lee, who used to read the news. Anyway, that's another story, but I remember it. So then I remember going back and I took that attitude, you know, and I found that attitude shifts make a great deal of difference in how you do things and how your world works. And I became the resident expert on the Israeli-Palestine crisis. Wow. I got books, I did a whole chronology from when Balfour decided that he was going to divide it after World War II all the way up to 1980. So much so that one Sunday, I got home to find out that the permanent secretary the minister had sent the permanent secretary and Ambassador Paris to my house to get the chronology that I had done to send to the UN to show them why we had taken the positions we had taken over the years.
So that's a good gem, Pam.
Yes, even if you don't like it. Yes. I tell people I never liked school. The only thing I liked was PE, right? But the point, yes. I could go outside. But the point was that whatever it is, even if you don't like it, have the discipline to do it well.
What they say, bloom where you're planted, right?
Yes, it opens doors to other things that you may actually want. But while you're in the place that you don't necessarily find a comfort level in, and I've used that throughout my life. There have been places where I have not been in my comfort zone. Like I think my last one just before this, UNCTAD, was not really my comfort zone because it was more academic. It was more, you know, but I took it and I ran with it because that's what God had given me to do at this point in time, you know. And then from there I went to Geneva and I, you know, bloomed there and did my thing. And another lesson I learned there was from Ambassador Richard Pierce. And this also has stayed with me throughout my entire career and life. I remember he used to come to church, the church that we went to called the Evangelical Baptist Church of Geneva. It was a small English-speaking church, and all the English-speaking people tended to go there. So we'd go, and one day we were having this function after church, and I saw him moving chairs, you know. Now, if you know the ambassadors that I knew when I joined the service, moving chairs was not something they did. As a matter of fact, you'd be lucky if they told you good morning, right? So I saw him moving chairs and shift. And I said to him, I remember saying to him after, I said, why did you do that? Why, you know, you don't have to do this. There are people, you know? And he said to me, one of the things you must learn is that there's a difference between your position and your position is what people respond to a lot. And you will get things done because of your position, and people will do things for you because of your position. Never mix that up with people who love you for you. And 9 times out of 10, there's only 1 of the 10 who will love you for you. Mm-hmm. Know the difference. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I have held that to this day. Mm-hmm. So I wear success lightly. In my view, I wear it lightly because it comes and goes. You know, today you're here, tomorrow you're not. And I've seen people who were all the greatest things in sliced bread, and then tomorrow nobody knows who they are and nobody cares. You need to know those people who are for you, in your corner, no matter what area, what level you're at, where you fall, or where, it doesn't matter. Have those people and know who they are.
I read an interesting article about that just recently in Forbes, and what they were saying was that, you know, as women, we should be able to answer the question, who's in your squad?
That's right.
Who's in your squad? Who are the people that you
are your people?
Go to.
Yeah.
Give you the advice that you know is the truth that you need, not the one that you want to hear.
That's right. That's right.
Who really believes in who you are and what you're about, and will be there.
And what's most important is, and that's why my family is also so important. They're not impressed with you. You know what I mean? They know you. They know you when you used to run around the tree. They know you when you used to drop off and hit your head. They know you. So they're not impressed with the rest of the stuff. What they are is they will tell you straight up, no. They will, and those are the kind of people I always want around me as well. The kind of people who, you know, will tell you truth to power, but have your back. Yes. And you know those women who, as they say, straighten your crown, but don't tell anybody else that they're doing it.
Yes, yes, oh? Yes, yes.
So, you know, and another lesson I learned was just because you can doesn't mean you should. I remember having a conversation with Secretary General in Sulsa when he was SG of the OAS. And we were talking one day about a colleague who tended to throw her weight around a little bit because she could. And he said to me, you know, Pam, one of the things I've learned as a former politician, as a current politician, as somebody who has been in power and been out of it, he says, just because you can doesn't mean you should. And I've learned that, and I've practiced that, because you have to walk lightly with power. Mm-hmm. When you're given power and you're given responsibility over people, it's incumbent on you not to abuse it. I think people who have been given power by God and abuse it have a particular thing to answer. As when you're given power, you should use it in a way that empowers others. It should not be used to abuse or to throw your weight around or to, you know, or to belittle. It should be used as an instrument to empower. Yeah. And so, you know, but I've been very fortunate to have some good mentors over the years. And you know, I think what is most important is to know who you are, know who has your back. And the issue of women and being a woman in this field, it's not a very female-dominated field. And I know Nicole and others can tell you that. It's still a very male-dominated field. And this whole thing with Jill Biden and the issue of whether she should be doctor or not, nobody ever asked Martin Luther King that. Nobody ever asked. But you know, once you're a woman and you decide to step out and own your space, mm-hmm. it becomes an issue. Right. And that's okay, you know, but I think more women, we need to stick by each other, which is why I really love what you're doing. We need to stick by each other. We need to uphold each other. We need to defend each other, and we need to understand that we're not competing. You know, each one of us has a specific space. Each one of us has a purpose. each one of us has a unique calling, and we each have our own lane, and we need to run that lane and run that race, and understand that we can each uphold each other, you know.
It's an interesting point you make, because a gentleman said to me, he saw this lady speaking thing, and he says, "What's that about?" And I said, I kind of gave him a synopsis. We're here to empower ladies through inspiring conversations that encourage confidence. He said, but why women though? I thought that is a given. I said, because women need a space where they can be safe, you know? Women need to know that they can come together in a space and learn from each other, because whether you know it or not, as a man, when we show up in the boardroom, you can't see the insecurities, you can't see the negative speak that is in our head.
Yes.
You just see sometimes a pleasant person, but we're not there to be pleasant. We are there to contribute in a meaningful way.
Right.
And therefore, it's important for us as women to know and understand that sometimes when you have those levels of insecurities, you're not alone, number one.
That's right.
And you can actually do it in spite of the fact that you have those insecurities, right?
Exactly.
And
Exactly.
over time, those insecurities can be chipped away, and you can, in fact, become more confident when you know that there are others in your corner batting for you.
Exactly.
But Pam, he went on, he said, but isn't it true that women tend to be the ones who pull each other down more than men do?
You know, it's such a, what's the word I'm looking for? It's such a myth. Yes, women, you know, women by our very nature tend to be a little more chatty, yeah? And we say things sometimes that aren't necessary. But the greatest attacks I have ever had have been from men. The most destructive, the most vile, the most underhanded have been from men throughout my career.
Tell us about some of those, Pam, and what you did about them. Putting you on the spot here. Tell us about some of those.
Okay, so I think the first incident I remembered was when I was in foreign service in a particular space, and I remember one of my seniors said to me, "Oh, you know, I like the way you fill out that dress." And I just turned to him and I said, "You know, I don't really think that it's appropriate for you to say that. You know, I don't think so." And the next thing I knew is that he had gone around interviewing everybody and asking what he said, what I said, what he said. And I said, the next morning, I'm a very upfront person. So the next morning I came in and I went to him and I said, you know, I'm really surprised, because if you had had an issue, you could have said it to me and we could have sorted it out and discussed it. And then he started talking about the fact that, well, you know, my mother used to be a dressmaker and your grandfather was Speaker of the House, so you probably look down on me. And I just said, you know, seriously? I said, you are senior to me. I am a junior officer. You are going to bring something from 50 years ago. But it taught me a lesson as well. It taught me that people can have a perception of you and respond to that perception of you when it has nothing to do with you. You know what I mean? You don't have to be, they have you in a box that they have created.
Yes.
They respond to that box.
Yes.
Irrespective of whether you know anything about that box or not. And then judge you according to that box. And so I learned that sometimes, you know, men's issues can become very, very real, you know, and very, very, very vicious. So what I did is I just told him, you know, well, you know, frankly, I don't think that that has anything to do with our current situation. I think that I stated how I felt about what you said, and let's leave it at that. And we moved along. Then I remember being in a situation where I had been sent to represent at a particular function, and I apparently did well. So somebody called the ambassador and said, you know, this officer really did well, she's really good, and so on. So I remember a couple of months later, we were at a meeting in Venezuela. And it was a group of us and some CARICOM people, and you know, it was, and he was saying, you know, imagine she did so well and blah, blah. And one of a former colleague of mine who was now a consul general said, well, you know, you must be so proud of her. And his response was, I prefer to be safe than proud.
Okay.
And you understand. So you are clear on exactly where your trajectory is going to go after that.
Yes.
But it's been a series of things. And then, of course, there's the sexual, you know, parts of it as well, where somebody tells you you're too pretty to be so bright, you know. So I remember when, after I had designed the program at UWI and I came down to run it, the OAS loaned me to UWI to run it. And I was setting up stuff and doing everything. And then I noticed that I was getting some pushback. And I was wondering, what is going on? You know, why am I getting this pushback? You know, I don't understand. I'd raised the money. I had helped design the program. I was here to run it, blah, blah. So what's the problem? Finally, I asked a professor at the university, you know, what's going on? He says, you're too pretty to be so bright. I was flabbergasted. I thought, you have got to be kidding me.
Simply that.
This is the 21st century.
Yeah.
But it said to me that there's always this tension, always, between being a woman and being a professional and having to walk the tightrope, because what they want is to either act like a man or they deem you as not worthy. It's a very strange conundrum, you know. You're not supposed to be, you're either one or the other.
Yeah.
And if you dare to encompass both, then it causes them great problems,
Yeah.
you know.
I had a gentleman once who told me that if I allowed him, he would make me successful.
Oh yeah, that's the other thing they hate. When they can't claim that they're the ones who put you there. Oh, there's nothing worse. They cannot say, it messes with their head. They cannot say that I am the one who got her there. And then, of course, there's the usual trope about, but this, unfortunately, is women who do this, where, oh, who sleep with who? You know, I've never heard anybody say, all the men who've gotten ASG posts, et cetera, or who have moved up the ladder or who've done whatever, with less qualifications than me. And I have never heard anybody say who he sleep with. Never. And I think maybe I'll start those rumors. I think what I will start saying, you know, I wonder who so-and-so slept with to get that Bank of Jamaica. And I wonder who he, so maybe somehow that will, you know, balance it out. But it's a very, I really despise it. In the same way I saw them trying to do it with Kamala Harris, and I realized, you know, this is a standard prop that everybody tends to follow. But it's disgusting and it's vile, and I think that, you know, women need to stop it. Because for the most part, sorry.
Well, one of the things that has stuck with me, I keep remembering it, it was the new justice to the Supreme Court in the US. Her name now, Amy something.
Amy Coney Barrett.
No, is it? Anyhow.
Amy Coney Barrett.
Okay, and she was being, I think it was Mitch McConnell who said to her, I just want to know who's at home doing your laundry.
Oh yeah. That's what we're supposed to. Or if we're not doing laundry, we should be in the office assisting a man. Yeah. You know how many times I've been asked to photocopy stuff when I'm actually the chair of a panel, but they don't know. So I go and photocopy it, and then I hand it to them on the panel, and they're so embarrassed they can't say anything for the rest of the panel.
Yes. It is a challenge. But I mean, with all these things happening, you have still managed to claim your space. What is it about Pamela that makes her? I say you are a unicorn in your own right, because you have done what others have not been able to do, or few have been able to do. What's it about you that makes you that? You call it a kick-ass firebrand? What's the source of this kick-ass firebrand that you have?
You know, I was thinking about it. I was thinking about what made all of us, not just me, but all of us as kids, different. We've always been different. We've always followed our own track. We're not joiners. We just, I guess people would call us kind of straight. But anyway.
Assertive, they say you're assertive, right?
But I think, you know, I was thinking about the fact that my mom never had the opportunity to finish her education. And I know it's a deep regret of hers, right? But she never had that opportunity. She got married, you know, do all this stuff. But one thing I can say, she had a fire, still does. That's why we still can't keep her under control in COVID. But anyway, if there was an issue at school, she'd be up there. If she was going to defend her children, she'd defend us to the max. If there was some issue, if we needed to get, you know, some book for something for school, she was getting it. If she never, ever, ever, at any point, you know, laid down arms. You know what I mean? There was always a way. There was always going to be a way to get this done. She knew what her priorities were, and she was going to ensure that her children got the best, were defended, and were stood up for whatever the issues were. And she passed that on to us, you know? And she had a very clear work ethic. Don't be late. If you want to piss her off, go somewhere late, even if it's for dinner. Don't be late. One. And I still have it to this day. Even my office now, if I go on, we have Zoom meetings. I'm usually on before everybody else. And it shocks them because, oh my God, she's there. She's supposed to come after everybody's come. But I cannot, it's almost physically impossible for me. You know, I start getting hives if I'm late, right? Don't be late. Whatever you're given to do, be the best at it. Whatever, do it unto God, and do it with all your might. You know, always be true. Don't lie. Nothing she hates more than a lie. Don't lie. You tell me the truth, we will figure it out. But once you lie, you're in trouble. So she passed on to us a certain value system and a certain way of seeing the world that was filled with integrity, hard work, honesty, but also a fundamental belief in ourselves and in our value and in what we were capable of doing, you know? And that, I think, has stood out. I think it has made us who we are.
You know,
and she prayed. She was a praying mom. You know, she would pray up to now. She calls me every week. So I'm praying for you, you know, how are you? Now my mom calls me on the phone from Jamaica to Switzerland. and she doesn't use WhatsApp. Okay. I said, Mom, why do you keep doing this? Just borrow Jewel's phone and use the WhatsApp. It's free. No, I want to use my phone. Okay, fine. But you know, so we had that, and it's one of the greatest things you can have as a child growing up is knowing that someone has your back, and that no matter what, you know,
safe space. And
yeah.
You know, many, you know, as you spoke, one of the things that came to me is that, you know, as women, we don't always have to be at the top of the game.
Nope.
Sometimes our role is to help others get to the top of it.
Exactly.
You know,
Exactly.
sometimes we need to be the neck that turns the head.
That's right.
And be okay with that.
And be okay with that.
You
Exactly.
know, because we are, in fact, I did a talk once about women that are relevant.
Yeah.
And it really was about the fact that we all have a part to play.
Every one of us. Exactly.
And a lot of the things you share this afternoon speaks exactly that. Knowing who you are, what you're worth, you know,
Yeah.
and knowing that you can, in fact, make a difference in other people's lives. So your mother didn't go to university. She raised all you educated kids.
That's right. Hyper educated.
My mother didn't go either.
Exactly.
But she raised 5 bodacious girls.
That's right.
Who are just, you know,
that's right.
very self-assured, etc.
Yeah.
You know, and it's so important that we do find that squad that makes us feel safe and make us feel assured that we do have something to give and we can be supported. Not that we won't fail, not that we won't make errors, but that if we do, there's someone there to catch us.
I once told a boss, this is how bad it is. I once told a boss when he was just, you know, I just had it. I said to him, let me be clear with you. I can leave this job tomorrow. I can go home. I can lie on my mother's bed and I will not starve and I will be okay. Just so we're clear. They used to hang this thing over your head. Oh, we'll send you home. Home is not a problem for me. Actually, I'm happy at home. You know, so, and when you have that kind of knowledge that, you know what, you have that person or those people where you can go home.
Right. So it's important to understand that you don't become Assistant Secretary General at the United Nations overnight.
Nope.
There's a lot that goes into making you that.
Yes.
And sometimes it is the simple steps we make daily, the dreams that are planted in our hearts from 10 years old. That must be fulfilled. I know that when we talked earlier, you talked about the whispers from God. Before I open it up to Q&A, tell us about the whispers from God.
Well, maybe it will sound weird to people, but I have this thing, right, where, and especially when you live alone now and in Switzerland, it's not exactly Paris, you know.
It sounds exotic from where we are, but to be
it's highly overrated. Let's put it this way. You know what it's like? It's like Mandeville. It's very pretty, but there's no nightlife here. There's no, you know.
There's no nightlife anywhere in the world right now.
I guess maybe you could find it somewhere, but you know, I haven't found it. So the truth is, I'm not really looking. I'm happy at home. But when you're on your own a lot too, you start, you know, you introspect a lot more, and I talk to God a lot, and there are these little gems I get sometimes, just little whispers, and I call them whispers from God, and I write them down. And the most recent one was just last week when I was talking to you. I was complaining about, you know, I really hate doing all these speeches, you know, because I'm just tired of these speeches and the speeches and nonsense. and a little whisper said to me, have you thought that these speeches are an opportunity for you to use the platform that you've been given to speak power to others? You know, not just speeches. You have the power of the word and the power of the pen. And that is a very powerful thing. It is a gift that very few are given. And if you have been given that gift, then it's incumbent on you to use it, and to use it to empower, to use it to bring justice, to use it to you know, to right wrongs, to use it in a way that is like the sword of the spirit, you know? And it really switched my brain about how I now approach these interventions, I call them now. Not stupid speeches. I call them interventions.
Right.
But you know, it's just funny the way a little whisper can change your entire mindset about things, you know?
Yeah.
I remember I have a deep issue with winter. I'm not a winter person, yeah? I think I have seasonal affective disorder. So, so in the mornings now when I get up, I have this thing. You get up at 7 o'clock, 6 o'clock, pitch black, and it will be pitch black for another 2 hours. And this is insane. Anyway, so I walk around, I turn on every light in the apartment, every single, on the bathroom, kitchen, every light. I just turn on every light because it's daylight.
Right.
I do that. And then when I turn on the lights, I then walk around and look around. And then I remember one I was driving and I saw the trees. And when the trees lose their leaves, that is like the worst part of winter for me because there's just nothing left.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just once again complaining. And then there was this whisper that said, the leaves have gone because the trees are resting and replenishing to bloom again. And it forced me to go and do some research to find out that the trees actually rest, reabsorb all the chlorophyll and chemicals from the leaves. It goes back into their roots. They store the energy in their roots, and then they seal off the stems for the winter until everything is you know, kind of revitalized for the spring. And so they're not dead. And a lot of times in our seasons, we think we're dead. And we're not. There are seasons when nothing are gone. When you are just basically, you know what, this is it. I'm done. I'm not heading anywhere. I'm stuck. You know, my career is just this. And there will be those seasons, but it doesn't mean you're dead. Yeah. It means that the inner work is being done to prepare you for that moment and to prepare you to fly, you know?
Powerful.
So
I know everybody's mics are moved, but I'm sure that they're just like, yeah, I feel that. I see that and I understand that, you know, that is a strong plan. Yeah. Let me ask you a question, one more question before I turn it over to Q&A, because I know time is flying. Have you ever had that imposter syndrome that they talk about? I know even Michelle Obama talks about it, etc. What's that like for you? You ever get there and think, do they really know who I am?
Oh, I invented it. Oh, me? No. I have a whole encyclopedia on the various forms that it takes. And oh no, you know,
it's real, right?
I can't tell you.
It's real. But nevertheless, we must persist.
Nevertheless, we persist.
Yeah.